Welcome, friends of the Greasy Shop Rag. Today we're going to take a look at a Husqvarna 445 chainsaw. Customer complaint is that it just bogs, won't rev up. We've seen this 100 times here on the channel. But we're going to do something a little bit different on this one, so stick around. So as usual, we're going to look in the fuel tank. Ooh, we gave it the sniff test. And just because it passes the sniff test, maybe they just dumped good fuel on top of old fuel. And in fact, I think that's what happened in this case. But we pressure test the fuel line, and you'll notice I'm putting the old fuel filter back on. And that's because I've been burned a few times putting new fuel filters on at this point and then finding a scored cylinder or some other reason not to continue the repair. So we put the old one on there. Plus I want to run it and experience what the customer's experiencing. But before I do that, I want to do some basic checks. Like this sticker here that says Lowe's on it. So we see a mesh style air filter. It's got a lot of fines in it. And a few of them got past the filter. That's not helping matters much, but I'm sure it's not causing a complete bog like you're going to see. Let's look at the spark plug. What color is it? Pretty grayish white. Now, it could just be a newer plug that the customer tried, but I think this saw is running a little bit lean. Cylinder looks good though. We don't have any problems there. And what are we going to do? We're digging around for something. Can't seem to find it. Ah, compression gauge. Was in the wrong drawer. Let's see what we got. I'm setting the fast idle here to hold the throttle open a little bit. I got the decomp button off. And we're going to keep pulling the rope until the needle stops rising on that gauge. And it stopped at 115. It's not wonderful, but it's not uncommon for this size and style of saw. And as long as it's above 100, I'll keep moving forward on it, on the repair. So now we're going to test the ignition system. We're going to look for a nice crisp blue spark, and we want to see it jump a 6mm gap with this tool. Now I know you can't see it. You just have to take my word for it. It's jumping a 6mm gap. It's looking good. So we're happy with the power of the ignition system anyway. It doesn't tell us if it's timed or not. It just tells us that it's got enough reserve energy to jump a bigger gap. Push through a fouled plug, let's say. Click, get the spark plug torqued down. Now what are we going to do? Schmutz, we're going to blow a little bit of schmutz away. Back to the air filter. So blowing out an air filter is, let's say, risky business. You could blow small holes through the filter. And that's why when I do these mesh ones, I always use a light. Make sure that I didn't damage it. Taking a look at the spark arrestor screen, it's not plugged up. And we're just going to blow out the access to the high and the low speed jets. Now that everything else is checked out okay, I'm going to put that new fuel filter on here. There we go. Alright, let's prime it up and see if it runs, or see how it runs. Choke. Alright, that wasn't so great, was it? You notice that when I added low speed, richened the low speed, that it didn't help. And you also notice that it idled fairly decent, not like it had an air leak. You know, it wasn't revving high from running lean at idle, but it didn't have enough fuel flow to actually rev. Now, I'm opening the carb and I'm finding that the metering diaphragm, it looks good. It's pliable. Maybe the micro screen is blocked up a little bit. Yeah, not really. I mean, it looks pretty good. Yeah. So what have we looked at here? The fuel filter's been changed. The fuel line's been pressure tested. Our metering diaphragm is good. The micro screen in the carb looks good. And the saw idled good, indicating it probably doesn't have a major air leak. So I'm coming to the realization that this carb would be a good candidate for the ultrasonic cleaner to be cleaned out. But I'm also realizing that, you know, all these videos that I make, they're all the same damn thing. Open the carb up, put a metering diaphragm in it, and keep going, and everything works out. I'm pretty sure the low speed jet is plugged up on this one, and I'm not going to clean it here on the bench. We're going to put the carb back in after just doing the gasket kit and a new micro screen, and we'll see how it runs, and then we'll proceed from there. So I've kind of sped through this assembly process here because rebuilding a carb, or refreshing it in this case, pretty straightforward. Put the new gaskets in the same way the old gaskets were in there. Let's prime this thing up and get our filter back on there and see how it runs. So that test run pretty much confirmed my theory, at least in my mind. So let's see where we're at with this low speed jet. We're at 2 1/4 turns. We lightly bottomed it. We counted the turns going in. We bottomed the jet. It came out to 2 1/4. We did that so that we know where it was, and if we wanted to put it back in the same spot for retesting, we can. What we're going to do is just blast some carb cleaner into this low speed jet passage and clean that circuit out. A little bit of air. We're not sealing this nozzle against the carburetor. We're just blasting it a little bit. And then we're going to put that needle right back in. That's the only change we're going to make. But we're not going to back it out a full 2 1/4 turns because in my experience on this saw, that's too rich. It should have been too rich, but that circuit was plugged up. So we're backing it out 1 3/4 turns. Now we just dumped a bunch of fuel in there, or carb cleaner, so it's flooded on that. So it looks like our whole problem was that the low speed circuit was plugged up. Probably old fuel, just starting to turn. You know, the low speed passages are some of the finer, smaller passages in a carb, so they'd be affected first. And cleaning it out with some carb cleaner was all it took to get this thing going. The fact that it smelled like it had good fuel in it in the beginning was probably just, the customer dumped out the old stuff and put fresh stuff in, so I would never know or smell the old fuel. And, they always say that. Well, it's got fresh fuel in it. Yeah, on top of old fuel. Either way, we got a carb kit in it. We got the carb cleaned out. It's going to run decent. We'll get her back to the customer. So that's all I got for you on the Husqvarna 445 chainsaw with a plugged low speed circuit in the carburetor. Thanks for watching. Later.